English translation 200-second contact. Saturday, 24th of August, 1985, 14:38 hours.
What do you think in terms of the things that have to do with the area of sex? In my view, everything slowly gets negatively out of control in this area worldwide.
That is of correctness. The sex life of the Earth humans slowly degenerates. The German, untranslatable word, in this instance, is Ausartet, which means to get very badly out of control of the good human nature more and more. All shame gets lost and everything gets out of control, namely to such an extent that the sex life only comes to validity for reasons of a purely physical and instinctive form. In addition, more and more, one only marries for reasons of a false feeling of love, and no longer in accordance with a true perception of love, which will lead to very many divorces in the coming time. The tendency of this is increasing alarmingly. Together with false love, also having more money, property, and goods, as well as the adorning of the outward appearance and enhancement of proportions, play a very important role, but not the true perception of love that is of actual importance and meaning, and that is life continuous. So in particular, sex greed that is focused on purely physical pleasure will, from now on, get out of control in an increasing measure, through which a worldwide sex business emerges, which finds its expression not only in countless brothels, but also in the robbery, sexual abuse, and sexual enslavement of children and women, and in relation to this, even innumerable murders and rapes will be included. Pornography will also become a worldwide catchword, namely with respect to adult pornography as well as child pornography and sodomy pornography. Also, the industry of sex toys will become a proper branch of the economy. The cornerstone for this was laid by a certain Bateusa, who already began, in the middle of the century, to undermine the sexual sense of shame of people by selling and spreading sex toys, etc., through which she not only became rich, but also destroyed the morals of people, from which a veritable farce will develop in the time to come, which, compared to Sodom and Gomorrah, was an insignificance. The sexual taboos will fall upon all, therefore, only purely physical sex greed and money greed will dominate those scenes that alienate themselves from decency and modesty.
Do you know the interests around Hitler?
Yes, why?
My question. As Svath once explained to me, Adolf Hitler was syphilitic and already terminally ill in the third stage, and in consciousness, he was already no longer entirely clear in the head. His consciousness had already been partially impaired, by what means he could no longer think clearly and act, and he also became megalomaniacal and unpredictable. From this disease, syphilis, he would have died sooner or later if he had not shot himself, which he actually did, right? Anyhow, that's what Svath said.
What you have said corresponds to the truth. But why do you mention these things?
Quite simply because there are always people who maintain that Hitler is still alive and thus did not commit suicide.
That corresponds to erroneous, stupid, and know-it-all claims as well as wishful assertions, because Adolf Hitler actually shot himself, and to be sure in Berlin on the 30th of April, 1945. At that time he was just 56 years old.
He actually was not German but rather Austrian, son of the Austrian customs official Alois Hitler. He really became a German citizen in 1932. As Svath said, he was also a Jew, but he denied this throughout his life.
That is of correctness. He kept this secret until his suicide.
Thus, Hitler, with absolute certainty, has no longer been alive since 1945, as Svath said. Then another question. Svath said that at the turn of the century, respectively the millennium, genetic engineering, respectively genetic manipulation, would very strongly step into appearance again, as this was already the case a long time ago and was practiced here on Earth by extraterrestrials, as well as in a space-time configuration of Sirius that is shifted to our space-time configuration. When there, a large group of humans from the Enoch lineage became genetically manipulated by the Sirians. Svath said that in a coming time, animals such as monkeys, apes will have human brain parts or entire brains implanted into them. And also genetic manipulations are supposed to be made, from which animal human beings will then emerge, whom you call cherubim. These, then, are beings that have an actual animal body, yet a functioning human consciousness, and, therewith, also a creational human spirit form. The same applies to the seraphim, who have half-human, half-animal bodies and likewise a consciousness and, therewith, a creational human spirit form, such as in the old mythologies with the fauns, the minotaur, and the centaurs, etc. The Bible even mentions the cherubim and the seraphim. But there, they are called angels, that is, messengers, who have been or who should be intermediaries between God and man, as the monotheistic religions lay this out. Now, the time of these genetic manipulations, as well as the transplants of brain and body parts, will soon stand at the door, according to Svatha's information.
That is of correctness. The beginning of this, however, was already made on the 3rd of December 1967, when the South African cardiac surgeon, Christiaan Neethling Barnard, performed the first successful heart transplant.
But when will it all properly begin?
In the not-too-distant time, because genetic and cloning attempts have already been underway for many years, whereby a lot is still kept secret. Thus, already for 6 years, a clone mutant has existed, which is kept behind closed doors in a secret laboratory and is kept alive for research purposes. Transplantation technology is already on its way to becoming routine technology, which will also soon happen with genetic engineering, and in particular, only plants and animals are used and genetically altered for research purposes. Then, also cloning will officially step into appearance, which will certainly be the case in the 90s, for in this regard, very great progress will be made up to then. So then, already the first animals are cloned, after which efforts will then also arise to create human clones in an open and thus official form. In addition, criminal and sectarian activities, unfortunately, will not keep themselves away in this respect, as I know from a future review.
Thus, abuse will also be committed with genetic engineering and transplantation technology?
That will unfortunately be the case. Even children will be robbed of their organs for transplants, whereby they will die or become invalids. Even adults will be murdered for organ harvesting, and to be sure worldwide, but particularly in South America and in China. In China, it will even be such that those who are sentenced to death will be shot in such a manner that practically all organs other than the brain can be used for transplantation. A worldwide major organ trade will occur, which will very soon take uncontrolled forms. But now, my friend, that should again be enough for today. So I am going now. I will come back soon.